In the dazzling brilliance of a luxury hotel, where opulence meets indifference, a scene was unfolding, capable of chilling the warmest heart. Imagine being publicly humiliated, not by a stranger, but by someone of your own blood, in front of hundreds of curious eyes. This is the story of Grace, a young woman full of dreams, whose life took an unexpected turn. To finance her French course, a passion and an essential step towards working in the hotel and tourism industry, Grace took on small temporary jobs, seeking to improve her employability. She had lived with her paternal grandmother since the tragic death of her parents in an accident, being her only grandchild. Grace's relationship with her grandmother was a safe haven of love and encouragement, with her grandmother always reminding her of her strength and potential. Despite the paternal family's humble means, however, Grace's mother came from a high society family with possessions and power, but who, ironically, valued relationships, love, and loyalty very little, values that Grace's mother defended and lived by, making her an ugly duckling to them. Her sister, Tiffany, in particular, always despised this difference, seeing Grace's mother's kindness as weakness, and her attachment to family values as naivete. The humiliation Tiffany inflicted upon Grace at the hotel, when she saw her in uniform for a temporary job, actually had much larger proportions. It seemed Tiffany was trying to diminish her sister's daughter, as a form of revenge for the values her sister represented and which Tiffany so despised. It was a calculated blow, a spectacle of power to reassert her own superiority. What Tiffany didn't know was that the universe has its own paths to justice, and that true wealth is not measured in material possessions, but in the strength of spirit. And that, at that very moment, an attentive gaze fixed itself on Grace. A gaze that, unbeknownst to her, would be the guiding thread of a completely different destiny. Grace had always been the embodiment of simplicity and kindness. She grew up in a home where affection and integrity were the pillars, values that her parents, despite their distinct origins, cultivated with love. Her life was a hymn to hard work and family loyalty. She dreamed of building a dignified future, far from the constraints of the more modest life that, while never lacking essentials, had accompanied her since childhood. Her greatest joy was seeing her grandmother smile, a wise and resilient woman, to whom she dedicated every effort and every small achievement. Her grandmother was her safe haven, her encouraging voice, who in every difficulty repeated, "Your dignity is your greatest treasure, Grace. No one can take it from you, unless you allow them to." The opportunity to work in temporary capacities at a renowned hotel in the city was not just a job, it was a stepping stone, a chance to boost her income, help her grandmother at home, and especially, to improve her employability through short courses, like the French one she was currently taking. Driven by her passion for hospitality and tourism, her Aunt Tiffany, her mother's sister, was the opposite of Grace in every way. Rich, snobbish, with a haughty demeanor and an ego as grand as the hotel's ballrooms, she always made sure to humiliate Grace's family, reminding them of their inferiority. For Tiffany, life revolved around status and power, and the simple way of her sister and niece was a constant reminder of everything she despised. The encounter at the hotel was a shock, but for Tiffany, an opportunity. She was staying there to attend a large charity event organized by a frequent hotel guest, a prominent figure in high society, and upon seeing Grace in uniform, a cruel idea, with a hint of old vengeance, bloomed in her mind. Grace's humiliation occurred at a moment of vulnerability, right after a situation that demanded all her calm and competence. She was assisting a guest family whose autistic son had had a meltdown due to the loud restaurant noise. The clinking cutlery, the voices, the ambient music, everything became a trigger. The boy began to cry desperately, throwing a porcelain plate that shattered on the floor, attracting all eyes. Amidst the chaos and judgmental whispers, Grace acted with admirable calm and precision. With her serene voice and careful movements, she managed to approach the boy, speaking softly, offering a plush toy she had in her pocket, and gently guiding the child and his parents to a quieter place, away from the commotion, without embarrassing other guests and saving them from a mortifying situation. It was only after this heroic action, which Aunt Tiffany, disguised among the guests, likely witnessed with a disdainful glance but dismissed, that the humiliation came. As Grace, still kneeling, gathering the last shards of the dish the boy had broken, her hands dirty and her heart heavy from the scene she had just witnessed, Tiffany spoke up. With a mocking smile, loud enough to be heard by everyone in the lobby, Tiffany said, "Look who we have here. My poor niece, serving the rich, picking up other people's trash. She's exactly like her mother, always meddling where she's not wanted, full of moralizing and kindness that leads nowhere." Tiffany's sarcastic smile was a dagger twisting in Grace's heart. Grace felt her face burn, a shameful heat rising up her neck, and tears welling in her eyes, but she refused to shed them there, before so many gazes. The mention of her mother, whom she loved so dearly and who was no longer there to defend herself, was the final straw, a sharp pain added to the public humiliation. How could Tiffany speak of her mother that way? The scent of expensive perfume and the clinking of silverware in the restaurant, once symbols of a longed-for future, now seemed to mock her humiliation. Tiffany continued, her voice full of disdain, describing in detail how Grace was a burden to the family, an incapable person who would never escape that condition, condemned to mediocrity. Each word was a precise blow, and the pain was unbearable. Not only from the humiliation but from the realization of pure malice. "You will never be anything more than a servant, Grace. Accept your place," Tiffany concluded, turning her back and laughing with her friends as she walked away toward the luxurious restaurant. Tiffany's malice was evident, a bottomless pit of envy and contempt disguised as superiority. She seemed to have the upper hand, enjoying her position and her moment of glory, while Grace felt crushed, invisible, reduced to nothing in that universe of luxury. As Grace tried to compose herself, with the bitter taste of humiliation in her mouth and the shards of her dignity scattered around her, a soft, elegant voice called out, breaking through the fog of her shame. "Excuse me, young lady. Are you all right?" Grace slowly raised her eyes and saw a middle-aged woman with a kind face, marked by lines of wisdom and compassion. Her deep blue eyes conveyed a calm that Grace hadn't felt in a long time. It was Mrs. Evelyn Hayes, the renowned sponsor and organizer of the grand charity event that Tiffany was also attending, and one of the hotel's most important guests, known for her discretion, vast fortune, and, more importantly, for her philanthropy and a keen eye for human character. Evelyn had witnessed the entire scene, from the autistic boy's meltdown to Aunt Tiffany's cruelty. "I'm fine, ma'am," Grace replied, her voice almost inaudible, choked with contained emotion. Evelyn smiled warmly, a smile that warmed the soul. "Don't lie to me, dear. I saw everything. That woman, did she say she's your aunt?" Grace nodded, embarrassed, still feeling the flush on her cheeks. "Yes, ma'am. That's my Aunt Tiffany." Evelyn shook her head slowly, her eyes expressing deep disapproval, but no judgment for Grace. "Don't worry about people like that, Grace. True nobility resides in the soul, in the ability to rise and help others, not in a surname or a bank account. Your handling of that boy and his family was the most beautiful demonstration of humanity I've seen in this hotel today." Evelyn then did something completely unexpected, something that would irreversibly alter the course of Grace's life. She asked Grace to accompany her to her presidential suite, claiming she needed help with some urgent correspondence and document organization for the charity event. Grace, surprised and hesitant, but moved by a strong intuition, obeyed. In the suite, an environment of discreet elegance and comfort, Evelyn revealed her true intention. She was there not just for the charity event, but looking for a trustworthy person for a permanent personal assistant position, not a temporary job. You seem to be an intelligent and hardworking young woman, Grace, besides having a huge heart. Would you like to help me? I will pay you very well, much more than you earn from these temporary activities. Grace couldn't believe it. Evelyn was astonished to learn that Grace spoke German fluently and was now almost fluent in French, making her a trilingual professional. The opportunity was unique, a gift from heaven, coming from the most unexpected place, from the hands of someone who had just witnessed her deepest humiliation. At that moment, Grace felt a spark of hope ignite in her chest, a flame she thought had been extinguished forever. It wasn't just a job. It was a recognition of her worth, a chance to prove to herself, and perhaps to Tiffany, that she was capable of much more. However, her loyalty spoke loudest. Grace only accepted Evelyn's offer after fulfilling her commitment to the hotel, which involved 2 days of temporary activity for the charity event the next day. Evelyn, impressed by the young woman's integrity, readily accepted. Grace remembered her grandmother's words, "Your dignity is your greatest treasure, Grace. No one can take it from you, unless you allow them to." Those words echoed with a new meaning. The decision was immediate, coming from the depths of her soul. Grace would not surrender to the mediocrity her aunt imposed upon her. She would fight not only for herself and her grandmother, but for all those who had once doubted her, for all the simple souls humiliated in silence. The resilience and inner strength, which seemed dormant beneath the layer of pain, emerged with overwhelming intensity. She accepted Evelyn's offer, unaware that this yes would be the beginning of a transformative journey that would change her life forever, guided by a hand that destiny had placed in her path. Later, Grace learned that Evelyn stayed at the hotel for 6 months of the year, for convenience, as her family residence was in England and she had several strategic businesses in the United States. The following months in the United States were intense, a true school of life for Grace. She plunged into the tasks of her new, permanent personal assistant position, showing a dedication and intelligence that went far beyond Evelyn's expectations. Grace organized complex documents, made important calls to investors and philanthropists, and even helped with communication with international guests for Evelyn's various events and businesses, putting her German and French skills to fluid and confident use. Evelyn, a shrewd businesswoman with a brilliant mind and a huge heart, recognized Grace's boundless potential and decided to go far beyond a simple hiring. She became her mentor, teaching Grace about the world of investments, the complexities of finance, the social etiquette of the highest circles, and, above all, the unwavering importance of self-confidence. "Knowledge, Grace, is your greatest weapon," Evelyn would say, with a sparkle in her eyes, "but faith in yourself is what will make you invincible." While Grace blossomed under Evelyn's tutelage, Aunt Tiffany, oblivious to her niece's ascent, continued to spread malicious gossip and try to sabotage Grace's reputation in the social circles Evelyn frequented. She invented stories about Grace's incapacity, her supposed lack of character, and her opportunism, trying to undermine any chance of progress or recognition. What Tiffany didn't know was that Evelyn already had her own, at best, awkward encounters with Tiffany. There was, for example, the time Tiffany tried to bargain down the price of a very rare art piece at a charity auction, also sponsored by Evelyn, ridiculing the value of charity itself. On another occasion, Tiffany tried to bribe one of Evelyn's employees to get privileged business information, and the loyal employee promptly told her boss everything. Evelyn, with her keen insight, had already sized up Tiffany's true character. Evelyn's unexpected support was an unbreakable shield. With every attempt by Tiffany, Evelyn publicly praised Grace, elegantly debunking the slanders and boosting the young woman's morale, introducing her to influential people as her protégé and future colleague. One quiet afternoon in the suite, while reviewing documents, Evelyn paused and looked at Grace. Grace, in all these months, you've proven yourself not only competent, but also truly honorable. Do you remember the words I told you in the lobby? About true nobility being in the soul? Grace nodded, her eyes attentive. Evelyn continued, with a gentle smile, your dignity is your greatest treasure, Grace. No one can take it from you, unless you allow them to. Grace's eyes widened, touched. Mrs. Evelyn, those are exactly the words my grandmother always tells me. Evelyn smiled, a warm look in her eyes. What a beautiful coincidence, isn't it? It seems kindred spirits find each other. Grace, with the voice choked with emotion, said, I wish we had met much earlier, Mrs. Evelyn. I feel like I've known you my whole life. Evelyn felt deeply flattered by Grace's sincerity and affection, a rare feeling in her social circle. After these 6 months of intense learning and growth, Evelyn invited Grace to accompany her for her season in England. Grace, though enthusiastic about the opportunity, was initially concerned about leaving her grandmother alone, even with the neighborhood's support. Evelyn, recognizing Grace's loyalty and love for her grandmother, and already accustomed to Grace's indispensable support and competence, promptly arranged for a trusted companion and all necessary resources to ensure her grandmother's well-being and comfort during her absence. Grace accepted, her heart divided between the excitement of the new journey and her gratitude for Evelyn. Upon arriving in England, Grace's world expanded even further. The historic landscapes and vibrant culture of London captivated her. At one of Evelyn's family's many social events, Grace met Arthur, an affectionate, intelligent, and handsome young man with a captivating smile, who proved incredibly kind and curious about Grace's life. The attraction was immediate. Conversations flowed for hours about books, travel, and Grace's dreams of working in hospitality. Only after a few weeks of discreet meetings and a growing affection did Grace discover, to her surprise, that Arthur was Evelyn's nephew, raised by her as a son. Evelyn, noticing the blossoming romance, did not hesitate. On the contrary, she supported and encouraged the union with all her soul, seeing in Grace the perfect companion for her beloved nephew. Arthur's love for Grace was genuine and pure, and Grace's for him, a balm for old wounds. Grace and Arthur's relationship blossomed, culminating in a wedding in London, a ceremony that, under Evelyn's guidance, was as beautiful as could be. Evelyn spared no effort to make the day magical, and made sure to bring Grace's grandmother, with every comfort and care, to witness her granddaughter's happiness. The grandmother, her eyes brimming with joy, saw her granddaughter, once humiliated, marry with love and dignity. The celebration was a symbol of overcoming adversity and the ability of love and kindness to transform lives. A few months later, Grace's life took another plot twist-worthy turn. She returned to the United States, no longer as the poor niece seeking temporary work, but as the wife of Arthur, the respected nephew of Evelyn Hayes, a figure of immense social prestige. The news spread like wildfire in high society circles. It was at a gala event, once again at the same renowned hotel, that Grace and Tiffany met again. Tiffany, upon seeing Grace entering the ballroom arm in arm with Arthur and accompanied by Evelyn, her once haughty demeanor twisted in shock and envy, with her cruel smile. Tiffany approached Grace, ready for another attempt at humiliation. Well, if it isn't the former hotel servant. It seems you've found a way to climb in life, haven't you, Grace? I must congratulate you on your luck. Tiffany's voice dripped with irony and disdain, seeking to embarrass Grace in front of everyone. But this time, Grace was not alone. Before she could reply, Arthur, with his noble posture and firm voice, intervened. Tiffany, your insolence is as transparent as your lack of decorum. Grace is my wife and the most dignified woman I know. Your attempt to diminish her only reveals the smallness of your own character." Then, Evelyn, with a dignified calm and a cutting glance that silenced the ballroom, added, "Indeed, Tiffany. Grace's true fortune lies in her heart and soul, qualities that, unfortunately, some will never possess. And Grace is now a haze. To think that you humiliated her as a servant. It's a shame that reflects more on you than on her." The impact of Arthur and Evelyn's words was immediate and devastating for Tiffany. The murmurs that once complacently followed her now turned into looks of disapproval and distance. No one wanted to associate with the aunt who humiliated Ahaza's wife. Tiffany lost her status in her influential circle of friends, her brilliance was overshadowed by the truth, and she found herself isolated, abandoned by those who only followed her out of self-interest. Karma had acted, and this time, justice came through dignity and love. Grace, on the other hand, not only overcame adversity but found a more significant life purpose, becoming a beacon of hope and inspiration for many. Her story was living proof that humiliation can be the fuel for the greatest transformations, that evil does not prevail forever, and that true wealth lies in human connections, in the unwavering resilience of the spirit, and in the deep belief that, in the end, good always prevails. Grace's story teaches us timeless lessons about life and human nature. It shows us that life is a tangle of challenges and opportunities, and that, at times, humiliation, however painful and unjust, can be the starting point for our greatest evolution and for the discovery of a strength we didn't even know we possessed. It reminds us that faith, not in dogmas, but in our own inner strength, in our capacity for overcoming, and in the inherent goodness of the universe, can move mountains and open doors where there were once only walls. And that, often, the most significant help comes from where we least expect it, from people who, at first glance, seem strangers or distant, but who become true angels on our path, extending a hand when we need it most. What was the greatest humiliation you ever overcame? Do you believe in the power of overcoming and unexpected support, just like Grace? Share your experience and your opinion in the comments below. We would love to hear your story and your reflections. If this story touched your heart, if it inspired you to believe in justice, the strength of the human spirit, and the beauty of a fresh start, please like this video and subscribe to Stories That Inspire so you don't miss our next transformative narratives. Turn on notifications to receive updates and be part of our community that seeks inspiration and positive energy. A warm embrace, and until the next story that will make your soul shine even brighter.